Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Faria Bukhari, Dr. Fab, and today I'm doing this video about some very important issues that have come up. But before I start this video, I would like to express my deepest condolences to the people of Iran over the tragic loss of Brother Ibrahim and Brother Hussein, and the top officials of Iranian army who were accompanying Brother Ibrahim Raisi on his last journey. We all know who did this. They're talking about bad weather. They're talking about Iran not getting up-to-date supplies to be able to upgrade its official helicopters. But they're not talking about this fact that Ibrahim Raisi had single-handedly given Netanyahu one of the toughest times of his lifetime. A few days back, a few hours back, I would say, Golan military base was totally destroyed. Before that, at the northern front, the Israeli Defense Forces had found themselves to be in a serious predicament. The entire northern front was getting a pretty bad setback militarily and a significant defeat, to the point that their towns had become unlivable. The settlers were leaving in droves. There was a recent documentary done about this in mainstream media that the settlers are not coming back, most likely. Coming to the other work that Raisi has done, he has been able to, for the first time, unite Muslims, especially the bonding between the Shias and the Wahhabis and the Sunnis. He refused to go to war with Pakistan, despite extensive pressure, despite all the conspiracies laid out. And then he was amenable to seek truce and peace with the Saudi royals, with His Excellency King Salman, with our brother Mohammed bin Salman, with the entire Gulf countries. He was amenable to peace, he was amenable to truce, he was amenable to seeking unity. And then, for the last, I think, 1 week or 10 days, I have been campaigning about a Palestine's military defense club. And I postulated the idea of bringing together Iran, that is the 14th strongest military power of the world, not just the Muslim world, but all of the world, 14th strongest military power, plus Turkey, which is the 8th strongest power of the world, military power of the world, as of the 2024 ranking as per the Global Firepower Index, bringing Pakistan in this. That is the 9th strongest military power of the world, as per the same index as of 2024, and then bringing also Indonesia in this club. That is the 19th strongest military of the world. Again, of the world, not just the Muslim world, but of the world. So the idea was that since Palestine has been able to achieve the status of a state within the United Nations General Assembly, all states, all sovereign states require an army, especially when they're undergoing so much of genocidal terrorism by an occupational by an occupation, by a foreign occupation, by an imperialist and brutal apartheid. So the idea was to create this club with an initial membership of these 4 countries that make up the top, come in the top 19 countries of the world, and give Palestinians an official international right of self-defense. This means, now this is going to be a registered organization. It's going to be registered internationally as an organization comprising of various international countries, and not just restraining itself to just Muslim countries. It's a global coalition. It's a coalition for peace. It is a coalition for protection of those who can't protect themselves, as we're seeing right now in the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And it is basically going to go by the international charter, by the international law, and it is going to give the people of Palestine their right of self-defense, which they don't have right now. Anybody who tries to defend him or herself in Gaza is called a terrorist. Anybody who tries to pick up a weapon is called a terrorist. And we have now a loss of up to 50,000 people, amongst which we have almost 15,000 children. We have a lot of women. We have a lot of aid workers. We have a lot of journalists. We have a lot of United Nations personnel. They are lost. They are gone. They have been massacred. They have been butchered. And nobody came to their defense. Nobody helped them. And when people tried to help them, when people tried to pick up weapons to help them, to protect them from the aggression of Israel, they were called terrorists. So now that Palestine has an official categorization of a state of the world, as of the last UNGA session, we can say that it qualifies for its own National Army Guard. Until they're able to achieve a national proper army that has its own air presence, that has its own naval presence, that has its own ground presence, we can, as brotherly countries, chip in our services at an international level to provide them with this important right of self-defense against genocidal terrorists like Netanyahu. So this was the idea that we should create PMDC, Palestine Military Defense Club. The idea was to collectively organize, orchestrate, group 4 strongest militaries of the world that come in the top 20 category, and together they can have power indices almost equivalent to a perfect score of 0.000. Individually, they may have their own vulnerabilities, but together they can combine and complement each other to achieve a perfect score. So if Turkey has one of the best naval fleets, like it has got the top 10th naval fleet of the world, not just the Muslim world, but of the world, it can provide Palestinians with a naval fleet till they're able to build something on their own and help them defend their territories, help them defend their livelihoods, help them defend their lives, till they're able to achieve their own military. Pakistan has the 8th biggest air force of the world. Pakistan can provide them with the air support, with airplanes, with combat pilots, till they're able to achieve a level where they're able to fend for themselves. Iran and Indonesia have they have a lot of soldiers, they have a lot of ground military strength. So they can chip in their ground support, their ground strength towards forming the first national army of the independent sovereign state of Palestine. So this was the idea that this PMDC club can also train Palestinians, citizens of Palestine, into and convert them into proper soldiers, well-trained soldiers who know how to fly an airplane, combat airplane, who know how to manage a ship of their own, who know how to manage a submarine, who know how to, do guerrilla warfare, or, these kind of things that I don't have an army background, but you know what I'm talking about. So to build the Palestinian army, but not what you call, oh, it's illegitimate, oh, it's illicit, oh, it's terrorist, oh, it doesn't have like an international registration. No, they are going to have an international registration. This is a proper, thorough, comprehensive plan to have a registered defense club that's all military and whose members are from the elite top tier of the global military powers, and they train Palestinians so that they become strong, they become warriors, better warriors, and they fight to defend themselves against any aggression from anybody. So this was the idea that I presented through my videos and through my campaign almost 10 days ago. And I wanted to get Brother Ibrahim Raisi on board. I wanted to get Brother Erdogan on board. I wanted to get Subitano, the newly elected head of the state of Indonesia. I wanted to get our own Chief of Army Staff, Syed Asim Munir, our General Chief of Command, on board. I wanted to get our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on board. The idea was to create a platform where we don't just train the Palestinians so that they can fend for themselves, they can fight for themselves, and defend themselves against any kind of act of terrorism or genocide from anybody, but also to give them a backup till they're able to get there. Because now they have an independent sovereign statehood as per the last UNGA session, where they were granted this statehood. Now, I don't know if you need to take it to United Nations Security Council and wait for an eventual veto from US, which doesn't mean anything anymore, because the entire world supports the right of statehood of the people of Palestine. So the single, unitary, solitary veto of US doesn't make any difference anymore. The world stands with Palestine. And no matter how much Biden tries to bully United Nations or ICC or anybody anywhere, it doesn't matter. It's just one country. Who cares? The world stands with the Palestinian people. The world, in fact, Americans stand with the Palestinian people. Majority of Americans agree to the right of statehood of the people of Palestine. And just like the Americans have the right of self-defense and the right to have a US Army, have a Secretary of Defense, have the Pentagon, so does the state of Palestine. They have the right to have a Pentagon of their own. They have the right to have a Secretary of Defense of their own. They have the right to have an army of their own. Until they're able to have that army, we should have a Palestine Defense Club that is all military, that will provide them a backup. So this is going to be very illegit. This is going to be as per the international law. It cannot be labeled, profiled as a terrorist group. which Israel loves to do. Oh, you're picking up a weapon to save your baby from getting massacred and butchered? You are a terrorist. Oh, you're picking up a weapon to save your family from getting massacred or killed by us? You are a terrorist. To hell with Israel, who cares? ICC has issued the arrest warrants of Netanyahu. He is now the application has been filed. It has gone through. Period. End of story. The world agrees with the International Criminal Court that Netanyahu is a war criminal. Even his own people have revolted against him. There is a civil crisis going on in Israel right now. Israelis are upset at how Netanyahu handled the entire situation. This delusional, radicalized terrorist thinks that he's conquering Gaza, but tell me if he can even walk 2 steps in Gaza without being armed, without being accompanied by tons of ballistics around him. He cannot do that. So this delusional guy cannot claim that he has conquered Gaza. In order to conquer something, you have to prove that you can walk in that territory unarmed and not being accompanied by tanks, by drones, by soldiers. That's when you say, yay, I have conquered this place. I don't have any resistance. I don't have any more obstacles. That is when you conquer. But right now, I dare Netanyahu, try to walk in Gaza without any arms on you, without any soldiers around you, without any tanks around you, without any drones over you, hovering over you. You have not conquered Gaza. You are delusional. What you have done is, after rejecting the 2-state solution, you're going to end up losing the sovereignty of Israel. Because people have now started to look at Israel in a different way. Since the entire operation was started in Gaza, and the genocide unfolded and the ethnic cleansing unfolded, people are now looking at Israel not as a sovereign state. I'm talking about not the Muslims. I'm talking about the rest of the world that has remained neutral in this matter. They are looking at Israel as a controversial state, and they have started to question its very creation. Because they're like, how can Israel, that was supposed to come out of the Holocaust, commit the Holocaust itself against millions of people? How can such an evil force be granted immunity? People are now questioning. They're going right now to the very roots of who created Israel, how was it created, where was the decision made, who wrote the Balfour Declaration, who was the mastermind, what were the background, the ulterior motives behind the creation of Israel, the Greater Israel Plan. They're looking it up, and the information is everywhere. So the people all over the world are now questioning the existence of Israel. And this was not the same before 7th of October. So Netanyahu has actually not just fooled his investors when he says that he has conquered Gaza, and he's conquering Gaza, because he's not. He's delusional. He cannot walk 2 steps in Gaza without being armed, without having thousands and hundreds at least, not thousands, but hundreds of soldiers around him. And without the tanks, without the big armored tanks, or without these lethal drones hovering over him. He cannot do that. Until he can do that, he has not conquered Gaza. And he will not be able to conquer it because Palestine just received its statehood in UNGA. And even if he gets it vetoed by US, nobody cares because it's just one country. And that one country has its citizens, American people, American kids right now flooding the streets, flooding the campuses, who are fighting against their own government's decision to veto all these resolutions that are happening in the United Nations against Israel. So the American people have turned against their own government for the sake of Palestine, for the sake of the statehood of Palestine, for the sake of the self-defense of Palestine. So what is Netanyahu going to do? What is Biden going to do? What is even Trump going to do? What is the US Congress going to do? The world has granted the people of Palestine their right of self-defense. They are treated as humans. They have the right of statehood. They have the right of having an army like any other country of the world. They have the right to defend themselves. And Palestine Military Defense Club that has Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, and Indonesia, which are actually in the top 20 strongest militaries of the world. They're going to provide that to the people of Palestine till they have their own military, until they're able to fend for themselves. And while we are going to ask our brothers in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Oman and Kuwait and Jordan and the rest of the Gulf countries and the rest of the world for as much help as we can to build this club, we do want to limit the role of military, the strategic logistic work to be done by these 4 countries only, because they have, mashallah, shown the world their strength in their military power, and they have already trained like lakhs of soldiers within their own territories, and it's better to keep the logistics within these 4 countries and then have them train the Palestinian soldiers and register this as an organization that's international and that's meant to provide the Palestinian people their right of self-defense. And the idea is to give them that support till they're able to build a state for themselves properly and have their own National Guard and army, to train their soldiers, to train their train them in how to run a sub, how to run a naval ship, how to fly an airplane, how to fight in a combat battle. I'm not a military person, but you know what I mean, right? The idea is to kind of have them have an army till they have an army of their own, because they are now a state and they have the right to have an army, right? I mean, why won't you agree with that? If you agree that they're humans, and if you agree that they should have a state, which has been given to them through UNGA, I mean, why shouldn't they have an army too? And since they don't have the resources right now to build that army, these 4 countries are going to give them that army. And these 4 countries are going to bring their best assets and help them out, build their arsenal and their weapons and their self-defense against any genocidal attempts in the future and against these apartheid actions of terrorism that have been happening again and again and again. So this is what the plan was, and I think I did try to tag Ibrahim Raisi on it, and I have tagged Brother Erdogan as well. I've tagged our Chief of Army Staff as well on this. I've tagged in the Indonesian leadership as well on this, and I hope they're listening to me. But coming to who killed Raisi and why he was killed, well, he was very strong and he was very brave and he was very kind. He was very honest. He was very straightforward. And he is dearly loved by everybody in the world who cares for Palestine, who cares for Gaza. And everybody can see that he was a warrior and he fought back and he gave the people of Palestine their right of self-defense. Now, Israel will call it terrorism, but Israel has been committing terrorism against unarmed civilians, against unarmed people of Gaza, and has butchered thousands of children and babies, and has committed every war crime in the dictionary of United Nations. So Israel does not have a standing when it says that Raisi is a terrorist and he deserves to be killed or assassinated or he deserves to die. They don't have any standing. Right now, there are Zionists who are actually celebrating over the martyrdom of Raisi because they think he was a big obstacle and he was like he was giving them a hard time. And some of them are actually demonizing him as saying that he was really hard on the women in Iran, and they are actually saying really bad propaganda online about him. But let me tell you something. These are the butchers of Gaza. And they have butchered up to 50,000 innocent civilians in Gaza in the last 6 months, 6 to 7 months. And for them to call Raisi the butcher of Tehran, I mean, seriously? Seriously, you guys are the butchers of Gaza. How dare you call Raisi the butcher of Tehran? Look at Tehran right now. It's flooded with Iranians who are missing him, who are crying for him, who are mourning him. He's a hero. He's everybody's hero. I'm a Muslim. He's a hero for me. It doesn't matter if someone's a Shia, Sunni, Wahhabi, Barelvi, whatever sect we are from, he's a hero for us because we all love Palestine. Every Muslim loves Palestine. And he fought for Palestine. He gave them the right of self-defense. We don't think that is terrorism. It will never be terrorism for us. So, you are calling him a butcher of Tehran, seriously? Tehran is right now mourning, in complete mourning because of his martyrdom. It is flooded with his fans. So would Tehran flood with his fans if he was their butcher? But people are calling you the butchers. You are the butcher of Gaza, and that's why ICC is going to issue your arrest warrant soon. And even if Biden is screaming or shouting or bullying ICC, it does not make any difference anymore. Okay? American people do not approve Biden, and that can be seen in Biden's popularity ratings. IPAC is no longer able to save the butt of either Trump or Biden. Both of them, because of their support for the ongoing genocide in Gaza, have lost their popularity. Look at the presence of the voters in Trump's recent sessions, rallies. It's diminishing because people thought he was fighting against the deep state, but he's not anymore. He's condoning to the genocide that is happening on US tax dollars by Israel. And he's not fighting the deep state anymore. He's licking the boots of Netanyahu. He's licking the boots of IPAC. So how can he be the fighter against the deep state? So Americans can see that happening. Americans saw Jill Stein work against the deep state and support Gaza, support the right of freedom of expression of the American people and the First Amendment right at the Gaza encampment all over US. They have like, Americans know what you're doing, and they are not supporting your dramas and your charades and your tantrums. They know you're greedy, they know you're corrupt. So they don't care about what you think and what you feel and who's your favorite and who you think is a terrorist. They don't think Muslims are terrorists. They don't think Hamas is a terrorist. They don't think Iranians are terrorists. They don't think Raisi was a terrorist. Americans support the right of self-defense of the children of Gaza. Americans support the right of the people of Palestine to pick up weapons to fight against the Israeli Defense Forces to protect their children from the genocide that Netanyahu is on a spree of. So which world are you living in? Which world are you living in? Look at what Aaron Bushnell did. He lit himself on fire, and he was an active officer in the Air Force of US. He was not working for Tibet. He was not working for Pakistan. He was not working for Iran, for God's sake. Aaron Bushnell was an American citizen. And he was not an immigrant. He was an American kid born and raised in the US who lit himself on fire because he did not condone to your actions of genocide and your support of genocide. So the people of your country, US, are against the US government. Biden is losing his popularity every day. He's tanking down. So is Trump. Now they have a tie now. Did you know Trump was leading Biden by a few points, and now both of them have a tie because both of them support the genocide. And nobody wants a president who supports the genocide. Nobody wants a president of the United States who supports the genocide. A genocide is happening, has been happening for the last 7 months in Gaza on US tax dollars with American bombs. Period. Once a thorough, comprehensive investigation unveils itself, the facts are going to come out. We now have unlabeled mass graves. We have white phosphorus bombs. We have children's bodies burned, lynched, mutilated. How much are you going to hide? How many kids are you going to arrest? How many activists are you going to detain? How many people are you going to tear gas? Are you going to arrest the rest of the world? Are you going to untie your diplomatic relationships with the rest of the world? People are actually questioning the creation of Israel today. That's what Netanyahu did to the Israelis. Hostages were killed not by Hamas but by Netanyahu, by American bombs. And Hamas offered to exchange the hostages on day one that Netanyahu rejected. Now everybody's questioning Netanyahu's intentions and his objectives when he started the entire operation. And look at the port that you just built. We all know what you want to do through that port. You are actually importing military supplies through that port. So for a few breadcrumbs that you're throwing in front of the Gaza children, whom you displaced from their homes with your bombs, with your genocide, you are importing more weapons through this so-called port. And these weapons you're going to use again against the same children to continue with your mission plan of a genocide. Do you think the world is so stupid? Nobody cares about US veto in United Nations anymore. Palestinians have the right of self-defense, no matter how many laws you try to pass, draconian laws against the First Amendment right of the American people. It does not matter. Aaron Bushnell, never forget. There are children, American kids. Only 30% of the children of Columbia University are from international countries. 70% of Columbia University has American kids, American citizens, born and raised in the United States of America. They have the right to speak up when you're doing something wrong. And they are not going to give up that right. They don't give a damn about you tear gassing them. They don't give a damn about you putting them down, arresting them. They will do whatever it takes to keep that right of freedom of expression, because their entire future freedom depends on this. Your biggest threat is not Iran. You killed Raisi. Do you think Raisi is killed? I think he was just born. The guy is leaving a legacy behind. There are going to be 1,000 more Raisis born the minute you massacred him. And these 1,000 new Raisis are going to give you an even harder time of your life unless you reflect back over your actions and try to change and try to end this genocide ASAP. American people are not with you. The world is not with you. And you're fighting for a delusional, radicalized, extremist terrorist like Netanyahu, for which the ICC just applied for arrest warrants. Period. Who's delusional? Who's insane? Who's mentally unstable? The entire world stands with Palestine. The entire world supports the right of statehood of Palestine. They deserve a national army, a legit constitutional army, and Pakistan, Iran, Indonesia, and Turkey are going to provide that army to the people of Palestine through the Palestine Military Defense Club till they're able to fend for themselves, till they're able to have a proper army of their own. Bye-bye. Try to live with that. Most likely you're going to have nightmares. Bye-bye.